Howdy, howdy. Welcome on into the pre-show before the free show. And man, this is like my fourth show producing in like 2 weeks.
But this is...
But it's different.
It is different
Tepper
because...
instead of...
What's up? When's the last time you and I did a show together?
You know what? I think it had to be when Pickle took a vacation last year. And we produced the whole week together. So I think it's been...
And I feel like we really bonded then. So I'm looking forward to bonding here today and the rest of the week, right?
Yeah.
You're on the rest of the week. Well, I will say that like it's nice that you and I are here, but I just it feels empty.
It does
here.
feel a little empty.
Feels
in
like
the studio.
there should be somebody else here. You know, I don't know. Just stinks.
Boom!
Whoa! It's Greg Powers.
Greg Powers, how you doing, Powers?
Mallory, you and I have had a lot of shows together.
Yeah.
No, we have.
Pretty good amount.
Hey, do you remember that one time that we did it together? It was just me and you. You sat in Tepper's chair. You sat in Tepper's chair.
Okay.
I sat here,
and it was because you ruined my chair.
It was This Week in Recruiting, and so I was producing and
was
sort
that
of
your
hosting
first
at the same
producing
time.
show? The first time you produced a show might have been that time.
I think it was the first time in This Week in Recruiting, so it was very difficult to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of
while sitting here and hosting and producing. But it was great.
But now
I'm well trained, right? Yeah.
You're a pro.
I guess.
You're
I'm fine.
You're the associate producer of Dave Campbell's Texas Football
Feels
on Texas
good.
Live.
Yeah, I'm actually a producer now.
Hi, Powers.
What's up?
I have a weird brag to tell you.
Oh,
okay.
My gosh.
I have seen the Cincinnati Reds play baseball more recently than you have.
You've also seen them win.
I've also seen them win, which is like, it's like seeing a comet, you know? Because the Cardinals game I went to on Sunday, where it was the molten core of the sun, I watched them play the Reds, and
they won.
I learned the Reds won.
Okay.
I learned a couple of players.
Streak.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I learned they have former Cardinal great Tommy Pham on their show.
Yes, they do. On their revenge tour of Tommy Pham this year.
I can't remember who started.
Was it Hunter Green? Did you get to see Hunter Green?
No, it wasn't him.
Oh.
Why does that name sound familiar?
Graham Ashcraft.
Graham Ashcraft, who started.
Who also throws 100.
He was pretty good. I enjoyed watching him play. It was there were not a lot of Reds fans there. I didn't wear. I was like the only person not wearing a red shirt, as you can probably imagine. But
you didn't buy a shirt just for the occasion?
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be that guy.
He's also probably with.
I'm also with my wife.
Cardinals fans.
My wife was wearing a Cardinals shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I was not. Let's see. Who I'm trying to think of who impressed me from the Reds. There were a couple guys. There were a couple guys that I. TJ something.
TJ Friedl.
TJ Friedel's not bad.
Okay.
He seemed like a usable piece, or at least he had a nice game. I think he got a homer and a couple of RBIs.
I was looking at the lineup last night. Were you at the game where Tyler Stevenson broke his finger, or was he already out?
He was already out.
Okay.
He was already out.
Looking at the lineup last night, they've started to get some pieces back. It's not terrible.
The other guy that impressed me was Drury. Brandon Drury, not bad.
Our best player so far this year.
A usable piece. Anyway, I got to see the Reds win, and so you're welcome.
Powers, why are you a Reds fan?
Well, I was born in the Cincinnati area. I was born in Oxford, Ohio, which is just north of Cincinnati.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I grew up as Pete Rose was one of my favorite players. Eric Davis, loved Eric Davis. Like when I was a kid, I had to collect all the Eric Davis baseball cards, no matter what brand. And then they won the World Series in 1990. Tom Browning, they had the Nasty Boys, Norm Charlton, Rob Dibble. So that was a whole lot of fun for me to watch when I was a kid.
Reds were not, I should tell you, the Reds were not always very bad. They used to be very good, actually.
They used to be good.
They used to be.
Series, they haven't been. The thing is the Reds ebb and flow. They've been in the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years.
Man, is that right?
Yeah.
Boy, what happened this year?
And they just barely missed. Last year, they bottomed out at the very end. They were in the mix. Their team has been decent. And you know what? I'm not as cataclysmic as I was at the beginning of the year.
Well, they weren't like 3-20.
Well, all the players were hurt.
Yeah. Okay, one other player that I liked, Jeff Hoffman can play.
Okay,
Jeff Hoffman.
That's not one that I would have
like a middle reliever. He's got some juice. He's got some juice.
Colorado Rockies guy who used to get shelled in courts.
He's not or at least in the game that I saw, and this is I believe
he's been decent this
second time I've watched the Reds this year. They were okay.
The future is bright if you're a Reds fan, and I keep looking at the camera that's not there anymore.
That's fine.
Here it is.
Yeah, it's right there.
Hi.
I'm glad I can add nothing to this conversation right now. I'm just sitting here listening.
Are you a baseball
learning
fan?
about the? No, I'm not a baseball fan.
Not at all.
I don't. I just don't like baseball.
2 Texas Rangers.
I don't think currently. I don't think I can name 2. I used to watch it actually a lot more.
Can you name 3 baseball players active right now that we would agree are pretty good players? At least pretty good.
Clayton Kershaw.
Okay, excellent.
Win. And then you didn't even delay. That was good.
No.
We're doing great here.
God, what's his name? Mike Trout.
Okay. Excellent.
That's a good one.
Okay.
I thought she was going to get Trout.
I don't think I can.
Perhaps potentially the best player in baseball. Well done.
Okay. I think I'm burned out.
That's it?
I think
there's no one else?
I think that might be it.
You could have took the easy way out and just regurgitated one of the names we just said.
Yeah. 30. You're like TJ Friedl.
Yeah, there you go. That's my third one.
There are 30 teams, each with 40-man rosters, and you can name 2 players.
Here's your
when
sign,
I tell you,
Major League Baseball.
I do not watch baseball.
Yeah,
I do not watch baseball. Or I don't keep up with it. I don't follow it. I probably should in case something like this happens again, but I don't.
You're missing out because baseball rules. Baseball's awesome.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway.
It's the best writing sport. You're a journalist.
It is the best.
A lot of content.
Well,
I just
Unless
mean
you're bad.
You can write other articles while you're watching baseball because it's not.
Oh, that's true.
Baseball. Baseball's. Ooh, I love football. I think baseball's my favorite sport.
Your
to
second
watch.
favorite. Whoa.
I think it's my favorite sport to watch. Now, attend and cover football's not. It's not close. But to sit and maybe it's because I don't work in baseball, and so it's like a release for me. It's like, oh, okay, I can watch baseball and feel pretty good about it, and not be working, not be thinking about work. Every time I watch football now, I'm always thinking I'm thinking too hard about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's the way I am with college football and high school football. But I love to watch the
I'm
I used not to be a big NFL fan,
Me too.
Over the last 4 or 5 years, I've really grown an affinity for the NFL.
Fantasy
because
football
I
got
can
me
just
into that.
You can turn your brain off.
Yeah, I can turn my brain off.
You can turn your brain
fantasy football, I almost give it up. I almost don't want to play it because that is the one part of it that makes it more competitive. You know what I mean? Keeps it from being more relaxing as fantasy football. I have to get mad whenever Amari Cooper is terrible on the road. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, you don't have to worry about that this year.
Well, I mean, he might be on my fantasy.
I guess that's
I may
true.
have to worry about it.
He's still in the league. I guess that's right. Anyway, there's some baseball talk. Go Reds. Hit the theme expo.
Pickle!
Hit the arrow sign. Yes, y'all. From the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Mothership here in beautiful Lewisville, Texas, it's Texas Football Today, a show online. My name's Greg Tepper. I'm the managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazine, TexasFootball.com, a corresponding website. Thank you for spending part of your day with us, whether you're watching us live on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all of the places. Or you listen to us on the podcast, which you can subscribe to on the podcast vendor of your choice. Either way, thank you for doing your part to support your local mediocre internet show. I'm sitting over there at the helm today, making us sound good. She is the associate producer of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Dave Campbell's Texan Live. She's my Mal Pal. She's your Mal Pal. She's everyone's Mal Pal. It's Mallory Hartley.
Hey.
Hi, Mallory.
Hey. Associate producer who doesn't know baseball.
That's fine. We're not a baseball publication. When we pick up baseball, then it's like, oh, yeah, you got to figure it out.
Then I got to watch it. I'll watch it then.
Can you...
Are you going to put me on the spot again?
Do you think you can name, I'm not going to ask you to do it. I'm not going to ask you to do it. Do you think you can name all 30 baseball teams?
I think I could get pretty close, but I don't think I could name every single team, especially the Canadian teams. I think I would. Oh, it's just the Orioles? There's just one of them?
Oh, no. Today,
oh, wait, that's Baltimore. Okay, you know what? Okay, no.
This isn't meant to challenge you or anything like that. I think because, unfortunately, you are very much in the majority of people who don't follow baseball.
I know Steph's an Orioles fan, so I just blurted out Orioles Canadian.
Steph's going to be furious with you.
He's watching the show, too. Sorry, Steph.
Those other dulcet tones you hear. And he's Canadian, kind of, I can see how you made the mistake. And those other dulcet tones you hear belong to Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete, our recruiting analyst here. Hey, Powers.
What's up, y'all?
How are you?
Good. I'm just trying to get my body ready for next week. The Texas State 7-on-7 tournament. It's coming.
We're going to talk about
woo!
Today is Wednesday, June 15th, 2020. 262 days till Thanksgiving. Start planning now. Let's just say that. It's June 15th. Good time to really get your Thanksgiving plans in order. I would say so. Make sure you're ready for this day. You've only got 162 days to prepare. So get with it. Don't be caught with your pants down. Happy birthday to Ice Cube, episode 1405. Nice. On today's show, friends, it's This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers and Next Level Athlete. We're going to break down the latest news and notes from across the state of Texas. And then back out the show, Powers caught up with a buddy of ours, Mike Roach of 247, Horns247. And 247 Sports, their recruiting editor, to talk. I haven't seen the interview. I'll be honest, you did this afternoon or this morning. And so
it's great.
I'm going to take your word for it, and we'll all find out together coming up in the back half of the program with our friend Mike Roach. Do we have first four through the door?
We sure do. It was Nick Morton, Rob Hadaway, Just Chad, and Aaron Arbuckle. Welcome in, fellas.
Welcome in, friends. Welcome in, Just. It's good to see you. So, let's do this. I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. This is This Week in Recruiting.
Brilliant.
It's This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. And, of course, this segment is brought to you by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Chicken Express, I don't even know if their sponsorship has expired or anything. We're just going to keep talking about them.
It's a great time to go out and get an ice-cold, refreshing tea. Sweet tea.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Unsweet tea. As the temperature goes up, there's only one good thing to cool you down, and that's
half
chicken
sweet, half
sweet
unsweet,
tea.
I think.
I will cape for the unsweet tea. I think I've made my opinions known about about sweet tea. Just too sweet for me. Just
you need to get half and half.
I'm okay with half and half.
I can't drink the sweet tea all. You got to get half and half for
sweet,
it to be
unsweet, or half and half. Doesn't matter. It's all great.
That tea there, I don't know what they do. I don't know where they get their leaves from, but
wherever they get their leaves
from. You know where they're getting it from? Heaven.
There you go. Chicken Express. Tea leaves from heaven.
This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers and Next Level Athlete. A lot to get to. Let's start with our prospect on the rise. Our prospect on the rise, let's go out to Allen. Perhaps you've heard of them. Talk about their soon-to-be senior offensive lineman, Kason Carpenter, who picked up a Power 5 offer this week from Texas Tech. He's got 16 offers, including the service academies, plus places like Arkansas State, North Texas, Tulsa, Liberty, etc. He transferred in from Midlothian Heritage.
Correct.
With I presume this has to do, am I making the connection here? Lee Wigginton brought his dad along on his staff at Allen. Is that the connection
Correct.
here? Okay.
Yep, that's how he got to Allen, and really he's a really talented offensive lineman. He's a little bit undersized at 6'3", 265 pounds, but he's started to add some positive weight to his frame, and I think that's where you've started to see him blow up. I love him as an offensive center prospect. Played a lot of tackle at Midlothian Heritage last year, left tackle. He is as technique sound as you will find. As a matter of fact, around the Next Level Athlete camp invite time, Midlo Heritage sent over their recruiting sheet, with their recommendations of players who could come to the camp, and so I evaluated, all the guys who they wanted to get in, and this is the one that really jumped. Their quarterback is really good, by the way, Midlo Heritage, but this is the tape that really jumped out to me because of how technique sound he was, how good his feet were, hand placement. He did everything, all the little things right, and I remember sending Coach Wigginton a message back and saying, hey, this kid could be special. At that time, he had 0 offers, and he's kind of blown up now. I think he's got 16 scholarship offers. You mentioned a lot of the the schools that have stepped up, but this is a huge one in Texas Tech because I think that he could go over there, fit in with the system, and play center probably at a P5 level. And he's only going to get better as he matures and adds mass and strength and the strength and conditioning program. And this is a huge pickup for Allen, too, in a way, because their offensive line is good, but this makes them, to me, it's a great high school offensive line now.
Well, one of the things they were worried about, I know at Allen, is that they were going to be that this offensive line was not going to be as strong as it has been in the past years. That's an unfair bar. I mean, because they've had some of the best offensive lines that we've seen in recent high school football history. But I will say that adding a guy with the versatility like Kason Carpenter is going to be interesting. And I think it's interesting that you say that he could play at center because the first thing that I go to is center's the quarterback of the offensive line, right? Coach's kid. All those things tick. There's a lot of things that fall into place here whenever you think about it. Coach's kid, Joey McGuire getting in on him early, things like that. All of these things kind of line up as far as making sense.
And I'd like to clarify a little bit of a statement, too, when you say undersized. And I say that, and some people would probably hear that as like a critique or a criticism of a prospect. When I say it, I mean that as a complimentary thing because I think that he has the frame to add to that. So right now he's and we've had guys in here, recruiting experts like Gabe Brooks, where we've discussed like how rankings work and all that. This is a guy who has tremendous upside for frame development, and that's why I think throw in all the other intangibles that he have, and I think that he's a big-time player at the next level.
16 offers despite being quote-unquote undersized.
Right.
That speaks volumes about Kason Carpenter. Keep an eye on him. Let's go to our commit of the week. Our commit of the week is Amarillo Tascosa, soon-to-be senior defensive end Avion Carter. We've kind of been waiting for this, and what a coup for TCU as Sonny Dykes reels in Avion Carter over offers from places like Texas and Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. He's the number 25 prospect in the DCTF Hot 100, and this is a really impressive get here for TCU. This guy, we've been talking about him for a few years, and to get him there in Fort Worth is a big-time get for the Frogs.
I agree 100%, and you got to be able to be competitive up front to keep pressure on the quarterback, especially in the Big 12 where, it's like a pass-happy league to me. There are teams that can run the football, and, like Iowa State is an old-school style football team, but by and large, week in and week out, you're going to be facing teams that are throwing the rock around, and this is the type of guy to keep them honest. Explosive first step, really gets after the quarterback, has the size to move around and create mismatches up front, not only at defensive end, but if you wanted to, move him inside to get on an offensive guard and create a mismatch, he can do that as well. He's strong enough. He even plays inside already at Tascosa, so he has experience doing that. And he's going to add a lot of weight to his already 6'4", 260-pound frame. This is a big dude. Dominates the competition out there. And I have to think that the commitment or the signing of Major Everhart last year also played a role in this recruitment. So TCU's doing a really good job out in West Texas and Amarillo with a pair of 4 stars from Tascosa in the last 2 classes.
And one thing I think is interesting, TCU has always been known for developing defenders, and especially I would say they've developed them all over the place, but I think of guys in the front 7 that they've done a really good job of developing over the course of the Gary Patterson era. I think it's interesting that they are still getting that, and I don't know what ended up being the deciding factor for Avion Carter. I haven't talked with him, but I will say that it seems like certainly a reputation that TCU has built as a place that you can be an elite defender has carried over to the Sonny Dykes era, and has that they haven't said, oh well, Gary Patterson's gone, I'm a star defensive player, I'm not going to go there. Certainly not the case there for Avion Carter, at least.
No, and you pair him up with Zach Chapman from Fort Bend Marshall. This defensive line class is really coming together. As a matter of fact, the top 4 highest rated commitments, Avion Carter, Cordell Russell, Zach Chapman, Lafayette Kiowa. These are all guys who other in-state power programs coveted, out-of-state power programs coveted. This is starting to become a pretty good class for TCU. It started off probably slow, didn't have a lot of commitments, but they really put their foot down on the gas pedal and are starting to grab some of the top-tier recruits in the state.
It's This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete here on Texas Football Today. Get involved with the conversation at #TF Today. Let's move on to our underclassmen of the week. Let's talk about a soon-to-be sophomore athlete out of Colleyville Heritage, Riley Wormley. Riley Wormley went down to Underclassmen Day at Texas, which they called the Texas Elite Bash. Texas Elite Bash. I had to look that up. You had that in the thing. I was like, what's the Texas Elite Bash? It's what they called their Underclassmen Day.
Yep.
He picked up an offer from Texas. He's already got offers from places like SMU, TCU, Tech, UTSA, Arkansas, Oklahoma. Apparently, A&M's probably, it sounds like they're on the verge of offering him as well. But Riley Wormley was a guy who got some pretty decent run as a freshman there at Colleyville Heritage. He went to the SMU camp. He ran a 4.45 in the 40. That will catch some eyeballs. Riley Wormley, a name to know this year, next year, the year after that, and then he goes to college.
You know what? And I've went out to 2 7-on-7 events to try to catch Riley Wormley competing in the spring, and both times he's been on a huge trip to Oklahoma. He's been on a big trip to SMU for camp. So I mean, I just keep missing him. Hopeful to still catch him this off season to see how he's developed. But he was a guy who came onto the scene and put up 400 yards against stiff Texas high school football competition as a freshman. And what I really like about him is his balance. He's rated as a running back. I kind of see him as an athlete, a guy who could play wide receiver or running back at the next level, good on special teams, but he racked up over 200 yards catching the rock, and he racked up over 200 yards rushing the rock. So a very versatile weapon for Colleyville Heritage. And they have another guy in that 2025 class that you should really know about, and that's Braden Blewett. Already has an offer from Texas Tech. So the future is bright if you're a Colleyville Heritage fan, and things are just starting to pop off for Riley Wormley.
Of note, Riley Wormley, at least his team, will be in College Station next week. They have qualified for state 7-on-7. So
my third chance. We're going to try to make it happen.
Another opportunity to see Riley Wormley in person, but who knows? He may be going to visit like the Jacksonville Jaguars or something.
Kirk Martin speaks very highly of him. I did have a chance to chop it up with him at the Melissa State qualifier, even though Wormley wasn't there. He put in a good word of recommendation.
That goes a long way when you're talking about a guy like Kirk Martin. Let's round it all out with our Recruit of the Week. Our Recruit of the Week, we're going to talk about one of the very best quarterbacks in the class of 2023. That's Dripping Springs 2023 quarterback Austin Novosad. Austin Novosad is presently committed to Baylor. He is, I would say, I don't know if he's the highest rated Baylor commit right now.
He's not, but we're going to talk a little bit about this, hopefully, in this segment.
I think it's fair to call him at least a real important cog in the Baylor recruiting class right now. I don't know if I'm talking out of school for that. He was an Elite 11 finalist. But things may be getting interesting for Austin Novosad as he has recently picked up an offer from Ohio State and went on an official visit. You always say, Powers, don't listen to what they say, see what they do. When a quarterback visits Ohio State, that's got to be certainly raising some eyebrows, at least Waco way.
Yeah, no doubt, and he's got he's piggybacking the official visit to Ohio State, which was this past weekend, with an official visit to Baylor this weekend, and he's going to compare and contrast those two visits, right on top of one another. So this is a huge weekend for the future of the Baylor program, as I see it, because Austin Novosad is a very talented dude, and I want to kind of segue that into, again, we have really focused on this as many times as possible with the class of 2023. This class is as deep as any class I can remember covering.
Interesting.
Top to bottom. I'm talking about the top 200-ish guys, top 150 to 200 guys. These guys are all studs. And when you go outside of our top 50, and those first-time listeners today, the top 5 in the state are 5 stars. The next 45 up to the top 50 are 4 stars, and if you're outside of that top 50, then you're a 3-star recruit by and large.
Yeah, you're eligible to be a 3-star recruit.
Right.
Yeah.
So Novosad is number 51.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's such a. I almost feel like we need a cheat code.
Yeah.
This year for this year's class, because you look down that list. I mean, I'm just going to name some names like just in the defensive secondary.
Okay.
Right. Warren Roberson.
3-star.
Calvin Simpson Hunt.
DCTF 3-star.
DCTF 3-star. These guys are not even in the top 60.
So let me put you on the spot then, because you mentioned that. You mentioned, and Austin Novosad's pretty special. I think that goes without saying that right now we have him as a 3-star. In a lot of other years, he would be a 4-star, things like that. If we were to remove the top 50 rule, in the sense that if you're, I think I like the idea of the top 5 or 5 stars, right? Let's keep that in place. But if you were to say, instead of 6 through 50 are 4 stars, if you were to go 6 through wherever you find the cutoff, how many 4 stars would be in this class?
I would personally just.
So right now we have 45.
At a quick glance.
Yeah.
I watched Warren Roberson 2 weeks ago at a state qualifying event. He's a 4-star guy.
And he's
number 74.
So you're talking you would want to extend it at least 24 players.
Right. Or, Roberson may move up. He may move up. I think he should move up based on what I've seen so far, and we'll get another chance to evaluate him, next week at the state 7-on-7 tournament. But just to go, a few guys in front of him, Jordan Bailey, commitment to TCU from Denton Ryan, one of the most explosive athletes in the state, easily. Great highlight tape. Vernon Glover, a defensive back with size and offers from all the top schools. Montrell Hatton. You've got to watch him last year at the state 7-on-7 and in season. Stud. Quentin Joyner.
Yeah.
Calvin Simpson Hunt. Riley Van Poppel.
Yeah, Riley Van Poppel, the Argyle kid.
Anthony Evans.
Is a 3-star.
I love Anthony Evans. Speed, technique, sound, route. He's probably the best route runner in the state. Number 66 in the state. But just a sampling of the guys, and to just kind of turn that back into what we were talking about Novosad and why I think he's so important to Baylor's recruiting efforts in 2023. They did not sign a quarterback in 2022. That was my one critique of the class. They had put together a great class, but if they would have had a quarterback in that class, it would have bumped them up even higher up the list. And if you go a year or 2 years in a row without signing a top guy, I think that's problematic. There are other top guys in the state, but this isn't a particularly deep year at quarterback. We talk about these other positions and how great a year it is in state. The quarterback talent isn't as good as it was last year, and it's not going to be as good as it is next year. So if they lose Austin Novosad, that's going to be a setback, and it's going to be hard to replace him on that commitment list.
This is really interesting. Like I'm not just saying that. Like I'm. This is the kind of conversation I like having with you.
Reed McKeska.
He's
number 63. 47 offers. 47 offers.
He's just gonna keep reading up names. I love that. He's Greg Powers, the Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter. Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Stick around because. I don't like to talk about Mike Roach. So
okay.
We're Texas Football Today. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com. Talking football in the Lone Star State. You can follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Also on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. I have something exciting to tell you guys. Okay, so right now, if you go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe. Go become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football subscriber. Get the 2021 Summer Edition of Dave Campbell, or 2022 Summer Edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football mailed directly to you, fresh off the printer. We've secured enough copies to take care of our subscribers. If you go today, I've got a couple of. We're starting a competition. Okay, we're starting a little competition. You can use. We have 3 different codes you can use. Okay, you get 5% off a subscription if you use the code BIRDSUP. BIRDSUP, UP, which is for UTSA. Reckem, WRECKEM. I'm not enjoying spelling on the air. For tech, or the Mecca, THEMECCA for South Oak Cliff. Our 3 cover subjects this year. Go in there, and we're going to keep track of which fan base uses those codes the most. If you go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe and use those promo codes, it's Birds Up for UTSA, Reckem for Texas Tech, and the Mecca for South Oak Cliff. You can get 5% off of your subscription if you go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe. Hey, Malpal, can I tell you about our friends at Athletes to Athletes?
Yes, you sir can.
You sure?
Yep.
How sure are you?
I'm pretty sure.
Hey, did you guys know playing football at the college level is a dream shared by many high school athletes in the state of Texas. But there's more that goes into making that dream a reality than just the on-field performance. There's academics, culture, interests, location. They're just some of the areas that need significant consideration. So what if I told you that there is a college counseling program that could help you navigate this process from start to finish, developed specifically for student athletes? Headquarters right here in the Lone Star State, Athletes to Athletes is just what you need. As the best college counseling service available to student athletes, this local business is focused solely on helping student athletes find the right college programs for their needs, both on and off the field. That's the important part here. This program encompasses all the expertise and services of the traditional college counselor, with some added programs, tools, and resources that are unique to the student athlete experience. So, do me a favor. Go to athletetoathletes.com/DC today and schedule your free info session and see how they can help you pursue the best college program for you. Don't take my word for it. Just go to athletetoathletes.com/DC today to schedule your free info session and hear about our friends of Athletes to Athletes. There's also a QR code. You can scan that QR code. Powers, who'd you talk to this week?
We caught up with Horns247 recruiting insider Mike Roach, and things are really heating up in Austin on the recruiting front right now. And we talked about a pretty hot subject in Arch Manning. So he's set for a big trip to Austin this week, and Mike has the inside dish.
Here is Mike Roach here with Greg Powers on Texas Football Today.
It's This Week in Recruiting, and I'm joined by Horns247 recruiting insider Mike Roach, one of my good friends, man. I'm so happy and thrilled to have you on the show, as always. Thanks for jumping on with us.
Always excited to be on with you, my man, and always excited to do stuff with the greatness of Dave Campbell's.
Appreciate that shout out. And of course, you are one of the top recruiting insiders, not only in the state of Texas, but the entire nation. You're always plugged in with the latest goings ons. And one of the guys, I'm not going to bury the lead this time. I got to jump straight to it, because one of the guys I get a lot of questions about, and he's not even from the Lone Star State, is quarterback Arch Manning. And I think it's probably some combination of name power, talent, and, position value that brings him up all the time. But what's the latest on Arch and as it relates specifically to Texas?
Well, we're set for another weekend of Arch Madness in Austin as he is coming in for his official visit. It is, let me count him, I think it's his fourth visit to Texas. He's done 2 springs and a fall, and then this one. So yeah, that'd be his fourth visit to Texas. And it's kind of, I would say, the culmination of everything Steve Sarkisian's been working for in recruiting. It's kind of comes to this weekend, and that's because him being the number 1 player in the class, him being able to attract other talent, the name power, being from what I call the first family of football, all those things come together to make it such a high profile recruitment. And there's 1 or 2 of these every year, but I don't know, I haven't ever covered one like this. So I think Texas has kind of gone from dark horse in a school that people have talked about, hey, maybe they could, hang around, to, oh, they're right in it with Georgia. And I would say, but I also say Alabama, despite the fact Alabama has a quarterback commitment. Arch still took his official visit to Tuscaloosa last week. This will be his last one. And then we don't really know what's going to happen. There was a lot of thought that he takes all of his visits and makes a decision this summer, but he has talked about pushing it out to the fall. And if that happens, it just gets crazier and crazier. So, yeah, it's going to be a big weekend in Austin. A lot of big visitors actually coming, aside from Arch Manning, including, like Malik Muhammad from South Oak Cliff, Jaquez Petaway from Langham Creek down in the Houston area, Mikhail Harrison Pilot from Temple, and Will Randall, who's Arch's good friend and teammate. So it'll be a big weekend in Austin, and I'm sure I'll be on call all weekend.
There's a lot of talk about Arch Manning's recruitment as it relates specifically to some other top guys in the state. And I think the names that are probably most bandied about whenever, talking about that is John Tay Cook and Reuben Owens. I've been in the recruiting game a long time, Mike, and I know that there are certain guys who want to play with each other, but when it really boils down to it, it almost always is a very individual recruiting process, despite the fact that some of these guys want to probably be on the same team together if it all works out in a dream world. Are these recruitments really that closely related? Is Arch that magnetic in the recruiting process as you've covered it? I mean, you've been around it now and covering it for a while. Is he that special type of recruit who will just automatically draw others into the class?
Every year we go into it, and I'm guilty of it too, and I get sucked into like, well, this guy wants to play with that guy. And then when the rubber meets the road, those guys all make their own different decisions. It happens every single year. I think if you look at it from a perspective of somebody like Jonte Cook, he's already pretty high on Texas. I think they could win him with or without Arch Manning. I think adding Arch Manning is like, okay, I'm a receiver. I want that quarterback that, it's coming in. But Jonte's also kind of realized, and he and I have talked about this, that like for a player of his talent, maybe the quarterback coming into your class is not the guy you're going to play with a lot. You're probably going to play with the older quarterbacks on the roster. And then, the quarterback you come in with may be in the back half of your career. So I think that, for Jonte, I think it helps a little. And I think Texas is going to be a really tough beat regardless. For Ruben Owens, he and Arch have struck up an early friendship. And I think that's the interesting thing about Arch is he doesn't go to camps. He doesn't really do 7-on-7. He doesn't talk to media except for if you go to the school, and he's always very nice and accommodating. He's not a bad kid at all, but he has like been reaching out to kids all over the country and forming these relationships and bonds. So I do think there is a little bit of that magnetic sense, but in the end, these kids are going to make their own calls.
I want to shift gears a little bit to what Texas has already done on the recruiting trail. They picked up a big out-of-state tight end commitment this week from out in California, but they also have 5 in-state commitments on the list right now. And all of them are really, really talented guys. I'm just going to pull the list up as I talk about them here a little bit, just to kind of talk about, Samaji Burrell is a guy that I really like in the class. Dylan Spencer, another very, very talented player as well. Once you kind of give me, maybe 1 or 2 guys off of the current commitment list who Texas Longhorns fans should really pay attention to and be excited about since they've already gained their verbal commitment.
I mean, you mentioned Burrell and Spencer. I like both those guys. They're both guys at big need areas, especially Spencer, who, when we saw him in the spring, has an SEC body, big, long kid, 6'5", I would guess, long arms, 250 plus, probably will play at 285, just the kind of defensive line body you need if you're going to the SEC. The kid I love is Ryan Niblett from Aldi and Eisenhower. I mean, when you talk about just pure speed at the receiver position, this is a kid that ran 10.4 in the 100 during the spring. I went to his regional track meet, maybe in his area track meet. I went to his area track meet, and he won gold in 4 events, all 4 events he competed in. I mean, he is a special athlete. And the kind of guy that if you can just get him the ball in space, he's going to make some things happen. So he's the guy I'm really excited about. I think they have a chance to put together a really dynamic receiving class. If they can add Jonte Cook and Jaquez Petaway to Niblett, who's already in the group.
That would be a special class of speed too, especially when you take into account Trey Wisner who's now at DeSoto now as well. Another guy who has that dynamic change of pace, with the football in his hands. I think it's really sorting out to be pretty special. But there are some big targets still on the board, and I want to kind of focus on the in-state list right now a little bit. Who are the guys that we should probably pay most or the closest attention to heading down the recruiting home stretch as, the early signing period approaches? Who are those big names that Texas really has a chance to lure in?
Well, on the offensive line, I think that, obviously they signed probably the number 1 offensive line class in the country last year with 7 guys, big names, Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams and Devon Campbell in there as well. So, I don't expect them to take as big of a group, but you always got to take a good line class. And I think Jaden Chapman from Harker Heights is going to be a guy to watch. I think Connor Stroh from Frisco Wakeland. Those are 2 guys that I can see, potentially ending up in this class. The defensive side of the ball is really where it gets interesting to me because they're in the mix for a lot of big name guys, but they're not, I wouldn't say a heavy favorite for any of them. So they could walk away with a lot of talent, or they could walk away with, some misses there. And I think when you look at guys like Anthony Hill, obviously Darian Gillette from Marlin, they're looking to really add to that linebacker room. And then in the secondary, Javian Taviano and Malik Muhammad, those are guys at the corner position. They would love to add to a class that already has Jamel Johnson in the secondary.
One school that's right up the street, won 3 state championships in a row, has a couple of guys offered by Texas, Jaden Greathouse and Colton Vasick. Is Texas squarely in the mix for keeping those guys at home, and what's the battle shaping up for those 2 guys specifically?
Yeah, I thought they were a heavy favorite for Greathouse in the spring, and in a visit to Notre Dame has really got the Irish in it. Now, Greathouse is a guy that has been talking to Arch Manning a lot. I think every time Manning is in Austin, he's spending time with a couple of Westlake guys, including Greathouse. So I could see that one helping keep Greathouse home. Funny enough, as we record this, Colton Vasick is currently on his official visit to Texas on a midweek trip. So I think Texas kind of maybe fell behind there in the spring and are trying to make up some ground. I think Oregon's really strong, but Vasick is a Texas legacy. His dad played there. And I think I think people nationally have kind of picked it up, but I think he's a special talent as an edge rusher. And we kind of saw that in the state championship game last year when he won defensive MVP, but you just don't see frames like that a whole lot. And I think, for me, he kind of had a slow start to his recruitment. And I never got it.
Yeah, he's a big-time player, and he's one of the guys that we recently bumped up. I think we moved him up to number 9 in the in-state rankings, and just a lot of that not only combined with film, but his development off the field. He's starting to have some good weight, and he really passes the eyeball test now in addition to being a coach's son, which I think makes him even that more desirable, that he understands the techniques and, the nuances of playing along the defensive front. But that's why you listen to Mike Roach. This is a guy who knows everything there is when it comes to recruiting. You can follow him at Mike Roach 247. And of course you can follow all of his fine work over at Horns247, where he'll keep you dialed into all the latest goings-ons and keep you plugged in behind the scenes of Texas Longhorns recruiting. Mike, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to how this year is going to unwind.
All right, I appreciate you guys always have me on. Shout out to the whole crew, you and I'm sure TJ will edit this video. So shout out to TJ.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com.
Quit
talking. Facebook, Twitch, or here
Shut
on
up,
YouTube.
dum-dum.
And if you want more, it's Mike Roach, 247 Sports, our buddy. He's going to be down there in College Station, right?
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't miss that.
We already lamented about the weather.
He's a lifer. His brain is broken in the same way that our brains are broken.
Recruiting people are really excited, I think, about this year's tournament. The field is loaded.
It is. Very prospect
loaded.
Heavy. That's not always the case.
No.
At 7-on-7, but it does seem like, and even down to Division III, Division III, the small schools, stuff like that. There's some big-time prospects.
Really excited about
There's
the
some
tournament
bangers,
this year.
yeah.
There's going to be some new 5-stars and some new 4-stars. I'm calling it now. There's going to be some new stars given.
I love it. Let's go over to Mallory Hartley for America's second favorite segment. Final thoughts.
Definitely subscribe. That's pretty much all I had. Yeah, I had a lower thirds I guess Monday that said subscribe. So that was my final thought.
The codes, remember, for UTSA, it's Birds Up. For Tech, it's Reckham, and for South Oak Cliff, it's The Mecca, 5% off of a subscription, and we're going to track which codes get used the most, and the winner will be celebrated.
Also, subscribe on YouTube because we are close to 10,000 subscribers.
Is that right?
We are close to 10,000 subscribers, so that's why I put that lower third down there. Yeah, definitely do that.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. Thanks again to our buddy Mike Roach, 247 Sports, for being our guest. Powers, thanks for doing this. You want to do this again next week?
I'll think about it.
Okay, thanks.
I'll think about it. It's a day-to-day basis.
For Mallory Hartley, I'm Greg Tepper. Vince Young, please get your Player of the Year trophy. We'll see you tomorrow on Texas Football Today.